Thank you, ladies, sisters in song. That was so fun. We're getting to all the Bible characters today. So, we have a couple more coming up. Just wait. So last year, I had this idea that I wanted to start doing little previews about what the Sunday talk was going to be talking about, and post them on Facebook a couple days before to just give you a kind of a heads up on this is what we're talking about, and it would be a video. And I made every excuse I could to not do that. That was a little fear, facing my fear. So when, of course, the year changes and we want to start looking at our goals, I thought, okay, this is one thing I'm going to start. And so far, so good. But they do get easier. And, you know, it's like that in life. The things that we face, those fears that we face, is called flooding in scientific terms, I guess, flooding, that you keep facing those things that you're afraid of, and they become less fearful, that you're able to move beyond that fear. And if you saw my little video that was posted on Friday morning, I talked about diamonds. And I talked about how diamonds need heat and pressure to form. You know, the same is true for gold. Like, gold is a precious metal, and it needs intense heat for it to be gold. It needs to be refined. It needs to release those elements that are not part of gold in order to be its shiny self. And the diamonds need heat and pressure to be their sparkly selves. And how that is really how our characters are formed too. Our characters and the many facets of our characters are formed when we're under pressure. And you can see someone's true character when they're under pressure, when they're under heat, when we're in difficult times. And so we're certainly experiencing difficult times this past year. It's been almost a whole year. Difficult times of this pandemic and all the other things that have happened in this last year. So I hope you like that you're seeing your sparkly self shining through, your shiny gold self, your preciousness shining through. We're working with Elizabeth Lesser's book, Broken Open, How Difficult Times Can Help Us Grow. And we're in week 2 of a 6-week series. She talks in these readings that we have for this week about how we need to let go of this notion that we're all different, that we're all either better than or less than others, that we're all one. And that when we follow the way of the heart, our hearts, that we can break wide open, that difficult times can help us break wide open. It doesn't mean there won't be any more bumpy rides. There certainly will be, just the nature of life. There was a plane that was experiencing, the passengers were experiencing a lot of bumps, a lot of turbulence during their plane ride. And the pilot was able to land, but it was a really rough landing. So as is policy with the plane, the airline, the pilot has to stand outside the cockpit and say goodbye to everyone. And he was dreading this because it was a bumpy ride and a rough landing. So as the people went off, they just said thank you, and nobody said anything until the last passenger. And she was a very old little lady with a cane, and she's walking very wobbly, and she said, "Young pilot, I have a question for you." And he said, "Yes, go ahead." And she goes, "Did we land or were we shot down?" I love that little story. It can feel like we're shot down sometimes. It can feel like life is against us. can feel that way in our humanness. Elizabeth Lesser says this in Broken Open on page 22. Everything that happens to us in life is a blessing, whether it comes gift wrapped in happy times or as a heartbreak, a loss, or a tragedy. It is true, there is meaning hidden in the small changes of everyday life and wisdom to be found in the shards of your most broken moments. I love that quote, because there is a blessing under everything. But how she says that there is meaning behind everything, I think in Unity we really teach that we are the ones who give meaning. We decide what meaning we're going to give to events. And if we're following the ways of the world and the ways of the ego, often that meaning is not as useful to us. If we're following the ways of the heart, we can look for the good in every situation. We can look for the blessing in every challenge. You know, in Genesis, after Joseph is sold into slavery by his brothers, he says, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. That there is good, that God is good, omnipresence, and so God is present in every situation. No matter what we're faced with, no matter what is challenging us, Spirit is there. God is there, God is there. God is with us. But we often fight it. We often ignore it, that truth. Or we don't see it. Or we're so stuck in our heads in what we want and our disappointments and our heartbreaks that we're not willing to look for the good, to realize our wholeness, our oneness. There's another story in the Bible, Cain and Abel, who are in the Hebrew scriptures in the book of Genesis. And you may remember the story of Cain and Abel. They were the two sons, they were twins, born to Adam and Eve. Of course, it's an allegory. But Cain and Abel were twins, and Cain was the tiller of the earth, of the crops, of the ground. He was worldly, more worldly. And Abel was the keeper of the livestock and the flocks. And they both presented a sacrifice or a gift to the Lord. Cain gave his crops, and Abel gave a blood sacrifice of his livestock. And God looked on favor to Abel's gift, but not to Cain's. And Cain was very angry and called his brother Abel into the field and killed him. And God came and talked to Cain and said, "Where is Abel?" And Cain says, "What, am I my brother's keeper?" But God knew. And forevermore, Cain was given called the mark of Cain. Is really more like a sign that when we only look at worldly, the human side, the worldly goods, we will never feel like there's enough. We will always live in lack. It'll never be good enough. Later, Adam and Eve had another son named Seth. And I want to look at the metaphysics of this, because just on a surface level, the story shows the dangers of comparing ourselves to someone else, and how that leads to low self-esteem and low confidence and anger and even violence. Comparing brings us despair. It's a thief of joy. And so we want to be very careful about comparing ourselves to others. Metaphysically, in the Bible, people always represent thoughts. So Cain represents those human thoughts, those worldly thoughts. And Abel represents the divine thoughts, spiritual thoughts, or thoughts of a spiritual nature. In essence, the story, metaphysically, is about the battle between our dual natures, our human self and our divine self. The ego doesn't like it when there is guidance given and it doesn't follow what the ego wants. And the ego can get angry. The Cain in us can get angry and want to kill off those spiritual thoughts, those good thoughts, those thoughts of oneness, that we're all equal. This is part of all of us. We each of us have these thoughts in our minds. Anytime we get guidance in meditation, anytime we choose to not follow it, anytime we choose to not forgive, anytime we choose to compare and find ourselves coming up short, or find other people coming up short and feel good about ourselves because of it. Anytime we decide material riches are more important than spiritual ideas, Cain is killing Abel. The Cain in us is killing Abel. The twins, they're twins, so they need each other. They're close. It's like our dual natures are part of us. We need both to be whole. We need both aspects of ourselves. We need all aspects of ourselves to be whole. We don't want to deny any part of ourselves. And when we do, we close off to who we really are. So we want to break wide open to our full self. And the interesting thing about Adam and Eve having another son, who they named Seth, and Seth metaphysically means substitute, means that spirit can never really be killed. That life is always regenerating. Life is always coming back, being reborn. And in us, we always have another opportunity. No matter how many times our Cain within us may kill Abel, we have another opportunity to choose differently, to choose the spirit, to see that diamond sparkling or that gold shining within, because it's there in each of us. We need to follow and embrace our whole selves. When we're not following the heart, we are not honoring the beautiful, life-giving beings that we are. And so we can answer the question, am I my brother's keeper? Yes. We are the keeper of all of our thoughts. We are the keepers of all of the aspects of ourselves. We are the keepers of each other. But we often don't see it. And we deny part of who we are, or that we're all one. Elizabeth Lesser says in the chapter about the open secret, she says this: face your embarrassment at being human, and you'll uncover a deep well of passion and compassion. It's a great power, your open secret. When your heart is undefended, you make it safe for whomever you meet to put down his burden of hiding. And then you both can walk through the open door. I want to give you a sense of our author if you haven't seen her before. She's been on Oprah, she's been on Super Soul Sundays, she's done several videos, and she's the co-founder of the Omega Institute. So there are many things that she has been, on the internet. But if you haven't seen her, I want to give you a sense of her. And she did this short video on this chapter, Open Secret. So let's play that now.
Rumi, the poet, talks about the open secret, how we all, us humans, each one of us, and he was writing in the 12th century, but it still applies, we go around protecting a secret we're holding from each other. We're all hiding out. Someone asks you, how are you? And you say, fine, and you may not be fine at all. In fact, you're probably part fine and part suffering. You woke up in a pissed off, unhappy mood. You're afraid you're a failure. You think everybody else has it more together than you. This is the secret we're hiding from each other and creating all these behavior around. But then Rumi says it's not a secret, it's an open secret. We're all hiding the exact same secret from each other, that we suffer, that we're not perfect, that we're confused. And it's like being at a masquerade ball all the time, trying to pretend that we are someone other than we are, as if we're embarrassed by our humanness. To break open that secret usually takes some kind of real difficulty in life. You know, you all probably know people who say, I didn't know who I was until my cancer, until I got fired from my job, I was so arrogant. Different critical moments in our life where it's almost like we drop through the rabbit hole and find ourselves a human being.
I love that short little video. It's, you know, good reminder that putting on a brave face separates us. This week is this month is Black History Month. It started in 1926 as Negro History Week. Then it was expanded to a month in 1969 at Kent State University, and it wasn't recognized by the federal government until 1976. But during Black History Month, I like to watch some documentaries or read some novels by Black authors, just get myself more in tune with a different way of growing up, because I certainly, as a white woman, can't understand or will ever fully understand what it means to be Black. The other day, I watched a documentary on Amazon. It's called Little White Lie, and it was a story told by Lacey Schwartz. Lacey was born to two Jewish parents in a white world in Woodstock, New York. She had her bat mitzvah. She had all white friends. She lived in a white world. But Lacey looked different than everyone else. She had darker skin. She had black kinky hair and bigger lips. And she had her cousins always asking her, why do you look the way you do? Why do you look so different from us? Her father dug out some pictures of his grandfather, who was Sicilian, and said, look, you look just like my grandfather. That's where you get it from. And the subject was dropped for 18 years. Nobody talked about it. Nobody said anything. Lacey felt different. When she was about 12 or so, or maybe 11, she wrote, she wished she had lighter skin. Sad to think that. When it was time to apply for college, she wanted to go to Georgetown. And when it came to the question of race on her application, she left it blank. She didn't completely identify with being white because she looked different, but she didn't know anything else. So she left it blank. And with her application, she had to send a picture of herself. And the school decided that she was Black based on her picture. And so after she was accepted, she got a letter inviting her to a Black support group. She followed her heart. She felt some kind of calling to go, even though she had never in her life associated herself as being a black woman. In this black group is where she made all her friends, where she felt she belonged, where she felt comfortable and accepted. And she was no longer living in a white world with darker skin. She was living in a black world with lighter skin. And she was loved for who she was. And when she went home, the first break that she was able to go home, she confronted her mom. Her parents had since divorced. She confronted her mom, who didn't want to tell her anything, but eventually found out that her dad was a black man, that her mom had been having an affair, and her father, the father she grew up with, didn't know. It was never discussed. It was never talked about. It was a hidden secret, not an open secret. Anyway, I don't want to share more of the documentary with you. It's really well done, and I highly recommend you watch it. But it's that idea that we need to be our authentic selves. To stop hiding the secret, open secret or closed secret, stop hiding those secrets. And be who we came here to be. I'm also just got done reading a fictional book written by Britt Bennett called The Vanishing Half. Britt is a black author, and it's fiction, but it's a book about twins born into a black family, but they're light-skinned, and one of them decides to pass as white when she gets older. She cuts off all ties with her family of origin. She cuts off all ties with her twin sister and passes as white. And the interesting thing about it is she's living a secret. She doesn't want anyone to find out. She doesn't want her husband to find out she has a husband. She has a daughter with light skin and blonde hair. But what happens to her as she passes for white and denies who she is she lives in fear. She lives with this fear that she's going to be found out, that her life will fall apart. It's a fascinating read. I guess it was one of Barack Obama's favorite books in 2020, but I highly recommend that too. It's a great story about passing, not only race, but passing gender too. We need to stop living in fear and live authentic lives. When we do, we can truly live a full life. Elizabeth Lesser says in Broken Open, we are all half-baked experiments, mistake-prone beings born without an instruction book into a complex world. None of us are models of perfect behavior. We have all betrayed and been betrayed. We've been known to be egotistical, unreliable, lethargic, and stingy. And each one of us has, at times, awakened in the middle of the night worrying about everything from money, kids, or terrorism to wrinkled skin and receding hairlines. In other words, we're all bozos on the bus. This is, of course, if you've read ahead, is the chapter called Bozos on the Bus, where we look at others and think that they don't have the hardships that we have, that their life is much easier, that they must be riding a different bus that's not a bumpy plane ride, that doesn't have a rough landing, that they are living on or riding a different bus completely than we are. And the interesting thing is that when we break wide open, when we open our hearts, when we follow our hearts and realize our oneness, that we're all the same. that we're all bozos on the bus, that none of us can escape the hardships of being human on this earth plane. That is part of the human experience. But we're all wearing some type of mask, pretending that that's not the case for us. We're thinking that we're different. But underneath the skin, we're all the same. Elizabeth Lesser talks about the open heart. I can't remember the name of the title of the chapter, but that she got to witness and stand in an operating room during open heart surgery. It doesn't matter the color of our skin. When we're cut open, the heart, we all have hearts. Maybe you're thinking some people don't have a heart and a brain, but we all have hearts. We all have brains. We all have other organs. We're all created the same way. And what's on the outside is different, but what's on the inside is not. That we all look different. Thank God we all look different. We can settle into that knowing, and allow ourselves to remove those masks, be our authentic selves, and really connect with people. That's what our small groups are about. Living life fully and connection by following the way of the heart, by being open. And following the way of the heart is not just a glib saying. If you're aware of HeartMath, they've been doing decades, HeartMath Institute, they've been doing decades of scientific research. And there's evidence of the multifaceted duties of the heart, the roles of the heart in the human system. Everything from wisdom to spiritual insight to thought and emotion. They've done rigorous electrophysiological studies conducted at the Institute, which have indicated that the heart plays a key role in intuition. It can be a compass for us. They used to think that all signals went from the brain to the heart, but they've since learned that signals also go from the heart to the brain. That there are over 40,000 neurons in the heart. It's actually called a little brain. And our rhythmic heart patterns can offer insight into our thoughts, our feelings. And there's an app for that. You can download this app from HeartMath. If you go to heartmath.com, and the app can help you train yourself to sustain more coherence during difficult times. There's also a free video program I just signed up for, so stay tuned. I'll let you know how that goes. But it would have been fun to track this over the course of my life, to see the changes as I face different challenges in my life. I've experienced divorce, I've experienced a broken heart, grief over losing someone, cancer. And these things aren't unique to me, but they were certainly traumatic to me. And they broke me open in ways that I didn't know I had been closed, especially the cancer. There was a sadness that I felt for many months afterwards. But I love how when Elizabeth talks about the heart warrior in that chapter, about how sadness can help us move beyond fear. The sadness is actually, those tears are actually that ability to feel, that ability to live fully. And that was certainly true for me. As sad as I was, and the many tears that flowed, I felt truly alive. She says in that chapter, Life as a human being here on earth cannot be sanitized, rationalized, or tranquilized into a rigid vision of the way it's supposed to be. Life draws us creatively into the chaos of, whoops, I missed a line. Life will always be quirky, dynamic, changing, and messy. The way of the heart, that inner instinct that draws us creatively into the chaos of life, is ironically also the way out of confusion, anxiety, and suffering. This has certainly been true in my life. The way of the heart. And there is no supposed to be. Whoever said life was supposed to be a certain way, or supposed to be fair, or we were supposed to have an easy, smooth ride, there's no supposed to be. We all came here to learn what we came here to learn, to grow, to evolve. So are you willing to follow the way of the heart? To let yourself grow, evolve? Are you ready to allow your life to challenge you and to break you wide open into that fullness of life? This week, if you're in a small group, I invite you to be fully present with your group. Let yourself be vulnerable. Let yourself break wide open. These groups are created to be safe and confidential, and a chance for you to fully connect with yourself and with the other members of the group. If you're not in a group, I would encourage you to use those discussion questions in the e-bulletin or the update and reflect on your own life. See where you can recognize that we're all human. We're all facing human experiences, maybe not the same ones, but still challenging, still traumatic. We're all on the same bus. And I would invite you to allow yourself to have at least one conversation with somebody, one truly authentic, open-hearted conversation with someone, with another person, where you're truly honest. Life's tough. There's many challenges, but we can use those challenges to allow ourselves to break open to the best versions of ourselves, to truly see that diamond within sparkling and that gold within us shiny when we follow the way of the heart. So I want to invite us now into a time of meditation. I'm going to use Elizabeth Lesser's meditation that's found in the back of the book. She's got an appendix in the book, if you've gone back that far, called Toolbox. And this meditation is on page 301. So I invite you to allow yourself to get comfortable. Gently close your eyes. Put your hand on the center of your chest, on your heart center. And feel the warmth of your hand touching your heart. Breathe into that space and let whatever feelings are in your heart emerge and come to the surface. Respectfully nod to whatever arises. If there is negativity, fear, anxiety, panic, despair, don't reject those feelings. Observe them. Lightly pat your heart as if you are telling your feelings they are not wrong or bad, that this is normal and understandable for them to exist. Now imagine your heart as a big, spacious cave, so big that each of your feelings is very small compared to the vastness of your heart. In the center of the cave, envision a tiny glowing ember, a little flame, a flame of okayness, of grace, of calm. Even if it's the tiniest light, see if you can find it. Inhale slowly through your nose, then gently exhale through your mouth, and blow on that ember. Make a quiet blowing sound with your breath, and imagine the ember glowing and getting stronger and brighter. Perhaps it changes from a cold blue color to a golden flame. As you blow on the ember, feel the power of your breath spreading light through your whole being, body, mind, heart. Do this with several breaths until you can actually feel a sense of warmth and expansiveness in your chest. Let the warmth touch whatever fear, negativity, or anxiety is troubling you. Breathe in fully and breathe out gently with a whooshing sound. In and out, over and over, fanning the flame of fearlessness and filling yourself with courage and optimism. And we'll allow you to practice that in the silence for the next couple moments. Gently allow yourself back into your space, back into the room. If you're in Colorado, you may be hearing the wind blowing outside. That is spirit, the wind representing spirit, the breath that is moving in you. Allowing spirit to move in you as you come back into your awareness. And we'll move into